I said I was going to record it and then didn't. So, okay, so we're going to go ahead and start off this. Let me know if you guys cannot hear it, and I can adjust the sound.
Well, it's great to have you with us. My name is Craig Groeschel, and welcome to episode number 1 of the Craig Groeschel Leadership Podcast. Since we're just getting started, if this is helpful to you, it would mean a lot if you'd give a review, or if this is really valuable information and you want to share it with people on social media, that would mean a lot. If you don't know anything about me, which is very likely, I'll start off by saying I'm a massive student of leadership. I read everything I can on leadership, study from the best of the best. I believe that when a leader gets better, the whole organization gets better. And so I want to devote this podcast really to investing in leaders, believing that we all can get better and impact the organizations that we're a part of. I actually am honored to teach at leadership events around the country. In fact, if you live on the West Coast and are interested in joining me, I'll be with my good friend, Andy Stanley, who has an amazing leadership podcast. I highly recommend that you listen to Andy. And we're doing one-day leadership events in 2 cities in the month of February. We'll be in San Francisco and in Seattle. We'll be in San Francisco on February the 16th, and we'll be in Seattle on February the 18th. If you live in that part of the country or you're interested in finding out more, you can go to catalystconference.com/one-day, catalystconference.com/one-day, and we would love to see you there. We'll be in 6 or 7 different cities this year, and other places as well I'll tell you about in upcoming weeks. If you're curious a little bit about me, I'm actually married. I've been married to my best friend Amy for 25 years. We have 6 kids. People say, wow, 6 kids, you must love kids. I always say, not really, I love my wife. Wink, 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 right? You know what I'm saying? 2 of our kids are grown, and they actually serve in the organization that I lead. It's amazing to watch as my kids are.
I'm going to pause it really quick and preface this. I forgot to tell you guys what we're even talking about. So the next 3 weeks, we're going to be going over the 6 different types of leadership. So this is going to be the first week of that.
Really developing into leaders. We love to teach leadership at home. We love to teach leadership everywhere we are, everywhere we go, because we really believe that leadership changes the world. A little bit about the organization that I lead. 20 years ago, my wife Amy and I started a church called Life Church. In the 20 years we've been leading it, it's grown from a little 2-car garage to now our church meets in 24 different locations in 7 different states. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because it really takes a lot of leadership and amazing leaders to have an organization meeting in different states and continuing to grow. Our church also started the YouVersion Bible app, and this is an app that's been downloaded now more than 200 million times. And so there's a whole nother organization under the church that is producing this app that's being downloaded tens of thousands of times every single day. And so leadership really, really matters. And so when we're talking about this, I am going to be talking from the perspective of being a church leader. But I promise you that leadership principles are transferable. So if you're starting up a business, the leadership principles will apply to you. If you're leading an organization, if you hope to be a leader one day, if you're leading a nonprofit, if you want to be a better leader in your family, I believe the leadership principles that we talk about can be very, very helpful. Here's what you can expect. We're going to release 2 or 3 podcasts very quickly. And that'll give you something to kind of listen to. And then once a month, most likely on the first Thursday of the month, we'll release a new podcast. I'll work hard to honor your time to bring quality content in a short period of time. And then we'll also be posting these. Not only will they be on iTunes, YouTube, they'll be at lifechurch/open. We'll put the notes everywhere we can. They'll be available at craiggroeschelbooks.com and other places. What's really important to me is to hear from you. I love asking questions, and I love answering questions when I know the answers. If you've got questions, you can email me at leadership@life.church, leadership@life.church. And then as the weeks progress, I'll answer a few of the questions each time we get together. So let's dive in today. And what I want to do is talk to you about 6 different types of leaders and the results of these types of leaders. 6 different types of leaders and the results that we see from these types of leadership. We'll probably talk about 3 today and probably talk about 3 in the next episode. And you'll likely see yourself in one or more of these types. Chances are really, really good that you're going to think, hey, I worked for her or I worked for him. And you'll recognize that people that you've worked with or worked for have these types as well. At the end of the session, I'll give you a few questions that you can ask yourself or ask team members if you want to work through this as a group. And we'll dive in talking about these 6 different types. We'll talk about a few today. We're going to talk about unpredictable leaders. We're going to talk about domineering leaders. We're going to talk about secretive leaders. We're going to talk about passive leaders. We're going to talk about healthy leaders and empowering leaders. Unpredictable, domineering, secretive, passive, healthy, and empowering. What do these types of leaders produce in their organizations? Let's talk for a minute about unpredictable leaders. You may have worked for somebody, you never know what they're going to do. What do unpredictable leaders produce? Well, unpredictable leaders produce hesitant followers. If you've ever worked for someone who's unpredictable, you're very likely over time to become more hesitant in your own leadership. Why? Because you never know what they're going to do. You don't know what to expect. Therefore, you're hesitant. You may be a little bit afraid. You may be very, very tentative. For example, I worked in sales for 10 months before starting Life Church. And I had a sales manager that, oh my goodness, was he ever unpredictable. You never knew what this guy was going to do. I might be on a sales call with him when he was training me, and in the middle of it, he would just take over and just almost move me out of the way. Maybe I deserved it, I don't know, but he would just take over. There are times when I'd be out on my own where he'd just show up unannounced and just be there with me on the sales call. He would actually fine us money if we were late to a sales meeting. For the record, I was not late. But he'd find somebody else and say, you're fined $5 for being late. Next time people be late, there'd be no fine. We just would never know. He might yell at you, ah! Next time he might hug you. You never, ever knew what you were going to get from this guy. And as a result, all of the sales team, we were scared. And it wasn't a healthy fear. It was more of like, we don't know what to expect. We don't know if we're going to let this guy down. We don't know if we're doing well. We don't know if we're doing poorly. We just don't know because he's so unpredictable. In my world, in the church world, a lot of church leaders I work with say they're very often incredibly frustrated because pastors are unpredictable. What'll happen is they might go off to a meeting somewhere, to a conference, and they come back and say, now this is what we're going to do. And we're going to be all about small groups, or we're going to be all about evangelism. We're going to be all about whatever. And people are going, well, last time you went to a conference, you came back, you told us we're going to be all about whatever. And that lasted about 3 weeks. So there's often no focus, no consistency. And with this unpredictability, people are hesitant. We don't know if you're actually going to follow through with this. We don't know if we're going to get anywhere. And all of a sudden the organization is very, very frail because of the unpredictability. If you identify this as maybe something in your own leadership, and again, oftentimes it's difficult to see your own weaknesses. You have to really get honest feedback. Work on consistency. When you say the same thing over and over and over again as a leader, that builds trust. When your actions are consistent with your words, that builds trust. Consistency matters in leadership. I would rather follow a leader with a consistently average plan than a leader with a great plan, a bad plan, a mediocre plan that changes all the time. Remember, a quote I love to say is that successful people do consistently what normal people do occasionally. Successful people do consistently what normal people do occasionally. Don't be an unpredictable leader. Unpredictable leaders produce hesitant followers. Let's talk about another type of leader, and that would be domineering leaders. Maybe you've worked for a domineering leader. It's my way or the highway. Because I said so, that's why. We're going to do what I want to do. Your voice doesn't matter. This is the way it's going to be. What does a domineering leader produce? Well, a domineering leader produces compliant followers. A domineering leader produces compliant followers. In other words, they may scare you, intimidate you, threaten you, or coerce you into following. And here's the challenge. They may actually get some decent short-term results. Why? Because people are compliant. We're going to do what you want. But over time, it's always devastating to an organization. It always is. Because domineering leaders create weak teams. Let me say that again. Domineering leaders create weak teams. People don't think for themselves. They don't become better leaders. They simply do what they've been told to do. They become yes people. Yes, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. I'll do whatever. You may get compliance from your people if you're dominant as a leader, but you will not get commitment. You don't want compliance. You want commitment. And here's the challenge. The bigger your organization gets, the more people are likely to fear you. So if you're leading 3 people, yeah, you can have a relationship. If you're leading 300, oh my goodness, the boss just walked into the room. And you have to work even harder because here's what I found, that as a leader that's respected, you may make a suggestion and it comes across as a command. You may even ask a question. Hey, I was wondering about this. What if we tried this? And people are so eager to please you that they may try to reorganize everything around doing what they think you want them to do. So as your organization gets bigger, you have to work even harder not to come across as domineering. The biggest question or biggest suggestion I have for you, as if you don't want to be domineering, is to ask questions and listen. Ask questions and listen. Ask questions and listen. Make sure you ask 10 times as many questions as you give directions. Let me say that again. Make sure you ask 10 times as many questions as you offer directions. We do not want to be a domineering leader because domineering leaders produce compliant followers. Thought number 1, unpredictable leaders produce hesitant followers. Domineering leaders produce compliant followers. The third thing is this, secretive leaders, let's talk about that. Secretive leaders, those who, hey, I can't tell you this, you're not important enough to know. This is only for the top people to handle. You can't handle this. Secretive leaders produce guarded followers. Secretive leaders produce guarded followers. If you as a leader keep all the information or people at the top that know what's going on, what we're doing is we don't trust the people that are serving our organization. And the reality is, if we don't trust them, how in the world can we expect them to trust us? In fact, I love Simon Sinek. He says, a team is not a group of people who work together. A team is a group of people who trust each other. A team is not a group of people who just work together. A team is a group of people who trust each other. If we are guarded with information, then we're not communicating we trust. If we don't trust others, how are they going to trust us? And if our team, if they're guarded, then they're not going to give us feedback. This is.
Okay, you guys said you couldn't hear it. Hold on. I haven't moved it. That's so weird.
Really, really dangerous because if our team will not give us feedback.
Is that better? All I did different was open my door. Let's see if that fixes it. Okay, rewind it 15 seconds. Okay.
We don't trust others. How are they going to trust us? And if our team, if they're guarded, then they're not going to give us feedback. And this is really, really dangerous because if our team will not give us feedback, then we can't know the truth. And there's not a posture for them to bring, we don't, organization.
All right, I rewinded it a little bit.
If we don't trust them, how in the world can we expect them to trust us? In fact, I love Simon Sinek. A team is not a group of people who work together. A team is a group of people who trust each other. A team is not a group of people who work together. A team is a group of guarded with information, then we're not communicating that we trust. If we don't trust others, how are they going to trust us? And if our team is guarded, then they're not going to give us feedback. And this is really, really dangerous, because if our team will not give us feedback, then we can't know the truth. And there's not a posture for them to bring about suggestions to make the organization better. And we need to understand that as leaders, we only see the organization from one direction. The people that are on the front lines, they are thinking about solutions to problems that we do not even know exist. We have to engage their heart and commitment to contribute to the organization, or we're always going to be limited. And the bottom line is this: leader, if you
All right, guys, what have we done here? All right, try again. Okay, now it's not going to play.
Posture for them to bring about suggestions to make.
Was that any better? Okay.
You understand that as leaders, we only see the organization from one direction.
Okay. Heather said she could, or Shannon said she could hear it, but can't make it out. Y'all, technology and me are never on the same dang team.
They are thinking about solutions to problems that we
Here now.
If we don't trust others, how are they going to trust us? And if our team, if they're guarded, then they're like,
Anything? Oh, man. Well, we made it almost 13 minutes through this. I cannot think of why it wouldn't be working all of a sudden.
and this is really, really dangerous, because if our team will not give us feedback, then we can't know the truth. And there's not a posture to bring about.
Is that good? No? Okay. Sarah said it was good. Timoni says, okay, well, I'm going to hold it. Let's see if me holding it makes a difference.
Suggestions to make the organization better. And we need to understand that as leaders, we only see the organization from one direction. The people that are on the front lines, they are thinking about solutions to problems that we do not even know exist. We have to engage their minds, their heart, their commitment to contribute to the organization, or we're always going to be limited in what we know and what we can do. And the bottom line is this: leader, if you are surrounded by people that cannot or will not tell you the truth, your days of effectiveness are very, very numbered. We must be transparent. Here's what's going on in the organization. We need to be vulnerable. I don't really know what we need to do right now. We need to be honest. When we communicate information, we are communicating that we trust other people. And without trust, we don't have anything. So with communicating information, we're creating buy-in. Oh, well, they trust me with this. Well, maybe they want my ideas. Well, because they trust me with this, then I believe I can make a difference in the organization. And we need to remember, the more that they know, the more they will care. The more they know, the more they will care. So we refuse to be secretive in our leadership. Today, we're talking about 3 different types of leaders, and these are negative. Next week, we're going to talk a little bit more about some positive types. We talked today about unpredictable leaders, about domineering leaders, about secretive leaders. What I'd like for you to do is, if you have a team with you, is maybe to gather with the team and ask these questions. Ask this: how am I unpredictable as a leader? How am I unpredictable as a leader? Because the reality is, if you are, you're not going to know it. You think you're consistent, you think you have a plan, but you don't. You need to hear from other people. How am I unpredictable as a leader? And then ask, what are 1 or 2 things I can do to build trust with predictability? What are 1 or 2 things that I can do? And if you ask this question to your team members, they're going to tell you honestly. Number 1, just by asking them, you're telling them, I want to be more predictable. I want to learn. By asking other these questions, you're going to give them the freedom to bring insight to you to help you get better as a leader. Ask them this. Second set of questions would be, am I ever domineering? Am I ever domineering? Maybe even a better way to ask it is, how am I domineering? Assume that as a leader, most likely we probably are. How am I domineering? And then ask them this. What could I do to make sure everyone has a chance to offer their wisdom? What could I do? And they're going to tell you, you know what? In meetings, you need to ask for our opinions. Or we'd love to give you feedback about whatever. Getting the insight and the wisdom from your team matters more than you can imagine. If you're the only one bringing direction, ideas, you will be the ceiling on your organization. How am I being domineering? What could I do to make sure everyone has a chance to offer their wisdom? And then let's talk about secretive leaders. Secretive leaders. And this is just a question that I would ask and see what happens. Ask, what are 3 things I could share that will help people feel valued and care more about our mission? What are 3 things? I like 3 things because one thing is just like, hey, well, what are we doing about such and such? But if we talk about 3 things, we're getting deeper into some categories of things that people really want to know about. Whenever I meet with different teams from our organization, I always ask them, what do you not know that you want to know? And I'm always surprised that oftentimes it's just, to me, the things that I would think everybody would know, or the things that everybody should know, but we have failed to communicate. One of the biggest challenges in a growing organization is we tend to assume that people know. We can never assume. Communicate. The more they know, the more they care. The more they know, the more they care. The more they know, the more they care. Let's help them know a lot, so they care a lot. They'll have vision buy-in, and they'll really help contribute. Now, next week, we're going to talk about passive leaders. Hate passive leaders. Okay, we're going to talk about healthy leaders. Then there's going to be a little twist that might surprise you. There's a step beyond healthy leaders, and that's empowering leaders. We're going to talk about that in the next episode. I want to remind you, if you have questions, send them to
All right, pretty much ends there. I don't know about you guys, but I took a ton of notes. I love this whole thing and dissecting the different parts of leadership. I love that. So let me pull up real quick the questions you guys had. Okay, so you wanted to talk about launching distributors in an organized way. So for me, I think one of the biggest things on the leadership side of launching new distributors is to make sure that you don't forget them. And I feel like that's like a kind of silly thing to say, but I can tell you one of the biggest shifts I had in my business, I got a whiteboard and I put it directly across from me and I write everybody's name on it. And so I've got a list of the people who are pushing for a promotion and a list of the new people on my team. And so I know that every single day I need to try to connect with those people. And so that's just been huge, because I know it's so easy to sometimes get distracted and caught up in things, and then you realize, crap, this girl joined and I don't even remember her name. I just know I signed another distributor. We've all been there. And so I think keeping that has been huge as a leader. It's also really, our training is pretty step by step, and so you can also really simple. Sometimes I'll take a little notepad, and if I sign a bunch of distributors at once, like last month we had the $24 kits for the first few hours, so I signed 5 distributors in 2 hours the first couple hours of the month, and that's a lot to try to train, and everyone's on different steps and really not knowing where you're at. And so I just grabbed a sticky notepad and I wrote their names down. And then I just wrote columns for each step of the training, so I could check off when each person had completed it. So then, if Timoni messages me and I'm I can look down and be well, she hasn't finished step 3, she's still working on host to post, and I know exactly where I need to pick up this conversation. Or if I haven't heard from her for a bit, I can message her and be hey girl, have you sent out those host to post messages, without having to track it the same. It's really simple just to kind of keep it in front of you. So hopefully that answers that. If not, Sarah, you can ask for more explanation in the chat. Okay, so Shannon was talking about staying consistent. Are you meaning new people staying consistent, or you staying consistent? New people? Okay. So I think one of my things when it comes to signing new distributors is that I'm trying to think of how I want to say it. you know, I know everyone's heard a million times, like finding a good distributor is like flipping through a deck of cards. You have to go through the entire deck sometimes before you find your aces that are actually going to work. And so I think the biggest thing when it comes to distributors, launching them, getting them to be consistent, all of that, is to accept the fact that most won't. And I don't mean that in any sort of negativity. I mean, I wish every single person we started and signed in this business loved it, worked hard, and took off. But the reality of that is not going to be the case. And so I feel like, I know, especially when I first had gotten started, I put so much pressure on myself anytime I signed someone and they weren't doing it. I'm like, guys, it's not that hard. Just do this. What am I doing wrong? Like, why can't they get it? Why can't they be consistent? It's got to be me. And I can tell you it's not. It's the fact that 90% of the people don't have the work ethic to own their own business. And so it's more just teaching them and then trusting in your ability to teach them. And they've got to then decide what they're going to do with that. Honestly, we've got a team page with enough information. You could sign someone from the streets, put them in the team page, and they could go diamond and beyond on their own without you. And so you coaching them and you being there is just icing on the cake towards their success. But at the end of the day, you can lead a horse to water. You cannot force them to drink. You can give them the steps. You cannot force them to be consistent. You can't force them to work. You can't force them to want this as badly as we wish we could. And so you've got to trust your ability to take the horse to water and trust that you've done your job enough that they're then going to drink, know where to go and know how to go, and you're going to be there to guide them through the rest. So what should they learn in their first few weeks after the 7 days of post? So as soon as they finish training, and one of the steps of training, there is a checklist of things to do, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I don't know why. You guys know what days of the week there are. I don't know why I clarified that. But there's a little checklist I made. It's a cute little graphic. What I do is, what I've been doing with my newbies is, as soon as they finish the training, I send them that and show them where the 7 days of post are and everything like that. And every day I have them send me that checklist back. And so I'm seeing, you know, sometimes I'll do it for a week. I'll do it for 2 days, 3 days if they got it. But that gives you, you know, a week or two to see what they're actually accomplishing. You know, have them check off what they're doing, and then that gives you the ability to see what they can do and where you need to help them grow more. And then just being a leader, period. What do I say to my team and when, and how do I help them? So there's no right answer when it comes to leadership, but I can say also, we all love listening to people like Morgan Martin, Kelsey Thornton, Cheyenne Knox, all these people who come out there, and it's like they open their mouth and you're inspired. Like, it's amazing, and that's what we want to be. But I can tell you 90% of what they say that encourages you and their team, they heard from somewhere else. They heard in a book, a podcast, a YouTube video, a sermon, talking to someone. A lot of it's just recycled and reused information. And so to be a better leader, you got to focus on growing your leadership muscle. And so that's done by doing trainings like this, you know, reading leadership books. If you need one, this is one of my favorites, especially if you're like faith-based, but Visioneering by Andy Stanley. It's so good about learning how to cast vision and teach your team how to dream and keep them focused on a mission. It's really good. The Most Excellent Way to Lead is really good too, and it's about using 1 Corinthians and like using that to influence your leadership. There's so many amazing books and stuff out there. So first, I would tell you to focus on that and just growing yourself, because you got to grow. You can't pour from an empty cup. So if you don't have the knowledge, the wisdom, the ability and confidence in leadership, you have nothing then to pour out onto your team. What do you say? And, you know, honestly, all of you guys know in here, a lot of times I ask you guys what you need from me. Like, what do you need? And, you know, Timoni knows she can come and be like, girl, kick my butt. And, you know, there's different opportunities for that. And so I know, you know, certain personalities and all that. And so it's kind of just picking up on who you're dealing with. I mean, have your team take the color personality test. That gives you an idea. Ask them, what do you want from me as a leader? Do you want me to give you tough love? Do you want me to give you more resources? Do you want me to kind of step back and let you do your thing? I mean, we've all seen Riley, who is absolutely kicking butt, and her idea of leadership is leave me the F alone. She doesn't want anyone to talk to her. She doesn't want any help. And that's what she wants from a leader. Where, that's how I was. I was like, don't talk to me. I don't want anything. I can do this. And then, like I said, Timoni wants to come and she's like, where do I put this customer? And kick my butt about this, please. And what do I do with this message? And like, there's just different people need different things from a leader. So there's not any right or wrong answer. It's just develop yourself and find out what your team wants from you. Okay. So Timoni says, I feel like they all quit when they get to host a post because it confuses them. And when they don't get their first win, they go ghost. Well, like I said before, you lead a horse to water, you have to trust them to drink. Most people are going to quit this business. But if they're getting confused, try to get them on a one-on-one Zoom within their first 3 days. Because at that point, they should have mostly gotten through that training. Or if you get to host a post and they're like, dude, I'm not getting it, be like, okay, when are you free? And I will FaceTime you. I will hop on Zoom, something, and let's go over this. And I think getting face-to-face with them that quick is so huge to help work through those hurdles. And instead of making their wins customers, if you can take your newbies and make them think or understand that getting a host to post up is the win. Because the thing is if they can get a host to post up and get excited about it and then move on and get another and get excited about it and get another and get excited about it, the customers are going to come. Like, it's just, it works that way. And so putting more emphasis when they say, oh, I got my first host post, whatever, go ham, voice memo them like they just signed like a 3 million VVLC of their first one. Hype them up about it. And that's going to start creating the confidence because, and like I was saying last night on the Zoom, you got to sometimes rewind and put yourself in their place. Like, starting a new business is scary, like totally scary. And so they don't know what they're doing. They don't know what's going to be good, what's going to be bad. And 90% of people think they can't do this even once they get started. They still think, well, maybe I can't. No, you just got to host a post up. Clearly you can do this business. You're a freaking rock star. We're doing it. And it's just that positive reinforcement. And that should help you get through that wall. And then with explaining it, I'm very much a visual learner. I can talk to you guys through text all day long, but the second I can get you on a one-on-one, like, we're golden. Me and Sarah talk all the time, but there's sometimes I'm like, hey, I gotta like hop on Zoom or FaceTime you or something. I just need to tell you something, and we'll be on for like 3 minutes. That's it. But I have to talk face to face. And so I think getting your newbies on, that's not only gonna be one that's gonna let you be able to clarify things better, but that's also gonna build confidence and like rapport with the opportunity. They're no longer just talking to someone on Facebook. Somebody knows them. Somebody's seen them. They've had a real conversation, and it kind of makes the opportunity more real to them at that point. I see them quit when they go through personal things in life. I see everybody quit when they go through personal things in life. That's the truth. Like Sarah, if she's having a struggle bus time, like she's ghost. I don't know where she is. Where'd she go? Timoni, there's so many times that you step back and I'm like, girlfriend, where you at? I thought we were promoting. And you're like, well, this. And like, I was dealing with a lot of stuff family-wise last month. And like, where was I? I was not doing all the things that I typically do. And, it's so common. And so I think it's very important to, yes, you are trying to build a business. And yes, we are trying to change lives. But more importantly, we're talking to people and we're impacting people. And there's like, I wanted to get on Shannon the other day and be like, girl, get that diamond chart out, get it done. You want to promote, go out there. But that's not always who you have to be. And instead, we talked about her face and her swelling and making sure she was okay. And we've got to be able to put on both hats and not only be able to do that, but recognize the situation where it's needed. There's so many times I'm like, I just want to yell at you guys and tell you to get off your butt. And that's not the hat I need right now. Right now, you need me as a friend, more than a leader, more than a business partner. And it's super important to recognize that and love people through those parts of life. Because if you are still there loving them and being there and being their support when they're facing something in life, they're more likely to continue even at a slow pace. And I was on a Zoom with Tiffany Herr. Oh, goodness gracious. Probably back early in my business, a leadership Zoom with her. And she said, don't think you're too far on your high horse that there's anything that's below you as a leader. And so what she was saying is like, if you've got someone on your team, don't expect them, just because Sarah's been in for almost as long as I have, to have a chart done and know. If she is having issues, do the chart. Like, yeah, it's annoying. Trust me, guys, I spend 3 hours every month at minimum doing charts for everybody. But the thing is as a leader, you've got to be doing it first. I do y'all's charts before I even ask if you have them, just to make sure, you know. And when you see someone going through something, she's like, well, reach out, ask what they need. Be like, okay, look, I know you're sick right now. You know, would it help if I send you a post every morning? Like, would that make a difference for you? And you'd be surprised. Like, we had a girl on our team earlier, like, I don't know, she was super early on our team. We talked a little bit about her. I think Sarah kind of remembers her. Her name was Carmen, and she got diagnosed with cancer, and she's our age, and it was awful. And she was trying to still work her business when this was all going on. And it was the first situation I was able to step into as a leader and do both, and be a leader and a friend. And I was sending her posts. I was sending her the scripts when I saw someone commented on it and things. And yeah, it was exhausting, but it gave her the courage to feel like she still had something despite what was going on in life. And so as a leader, sometimes we just got to see that and step in and go the extra mile and do the hard, boring, exhausting extra things to try to help out. But at the same time, you got to recognize your team, and you don't want to constantly be pouring into debt. Like, if you've got a dead plant, okay, no matter how much fertilizer you put in there, how much water, how much time and effort you take, if the plant is dead, it's dead. It's not going to come back to life. And so you've also got to recognize that and do your job as a leader to love them, but don't give, like, you've got to also know when to let go and when to step back. I think that kind of answered your other question too. Like, how would I help them with their business growing without sounding selfish? And I think it's also just important to remember that, yes, you have people who are helping you promote, but at the end of the day, you're helping them hit their goals. And by hitting their goals, you get closer to yours. And so it's so much more exciting when you have like people who are so excited to hit the 400 club, high five club, go Ruby, go executive, all of this, and you get to celebrate those wins. And then you also are promoting at the same time. So this is a little bit longer. I'm trying to keep these to 30 minutes. We're a little bit past that, but do any of you guys have any other questions that you wanted me to go over? You can just unmute yourself if you do. I'm gonna take that as a no, but awesome. I'm so excited.